Good afternoon, and thank you for all coming at this later time. We, as you know, moved the schedule today to accommodate the briefing by Admiral Harris at the House Armed Services Committee. And JD, I know for you, that means likely missing dinner, and we appreciate your sacrifice to allow for that so our reporters could cover both of these important briefings today. We want to turn it over to you in a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Colonel John Dorrian, the spokesperson for Operation Inherent Resolve, joining us live from Baghdad. JD, over to you.
All right, very good. Good afternoon, all. We'll start with the Syria update and then discuss progress in Iraq. As you know, Turkey conducted airstrikes in northern Syria's Hasaka province the night before last, resulting in the loss of life of our partner forces in the fight against ISIS. In the last 48 hours, those same partner forces in the southern part of the country, the SDF and the Syrian Arab Coalition, continued their relentless campaign to isolate Raqqa, clearing more than 215 square kilometers of territory in Ops Box north of the city, where they were able to link forces fighting from east and west and then back clear the pocket created by the link-up. The SDF also continues making progress in Tabqa city, where they're controlling the tempo of operations against tough resistance and pushing ISIS into an ever-shrinking area. They accomplished this progress despite fierce counterattacks by fighters in the city, as ISIS recognized the extent to which Raqqa is being isolated by the SDF and SAC operations. Our partners are making tremendous sacrifices in this very difficult and dangerous fight against ISIS. They have done so in Manbij, and they continue to do so in the countryside around Raqqa this very day. Of course, the coalition air support has been an instrumental component of the SDF's advance into this dense terrain, suppressing the enemy's ability to retain their positions, destroying ISIS fighting positions, headquarters, weapons, and resources. We will continue that support. Moving on to Iraq, the Iraqi security forces continue making progress in isolating and clearing territory in the dense urban terrain of Mosul, despite ISIS resistance and brutal control measures against civilians who remain in the city. Yesterday, the Iraqi counterterrorism service cleared the Al-Tanak neighborhood, one of Mosul's largest. The neighborhood was important to the enemy as a command and control site and was a location the enemy used to keep a lot of weapons and resources. Unfortunately, we continue to see reports of ISIS actions to terrorize and control the remaining civilians in the city. As many of you know, the enemy uses the Al-Bayan radio network to broadcast to their fighters and to the people of Mosul. And despite the fact that many of these sites have been overrun and dismantled by the Iraqi security forces, they've maintained an intermittent ability to broadcast into both East and West Mosul. Certainly such messages are disconcerting to civilians who remain in the West or have returned to their home in the East because of the brutal treatment. But the city is completely surrounded and ISIS is losing territory every day. It's only a matter of time before the Al-Bayan network is silenced in Mosul forever. As you've seen, the strikes that the Turkish Air Force conducted last night also killed several Kurdish Peshmerga fighters in the vicinity of Sinjar. The strikes were conducted without proper coordination with the coalition or the government of Iraq. We're troubled by that. We call on all forces to remain focused on the fight to defeat ISIS, which is the greatest threat to regional and worldwide peace and security. The coalition continues using precision airstrikes, including 9 yesterday, to remove ISIS fighters, snipers, weapons caches, vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, and other targets from the battlefield anywhere that they can be found and struck with precision in Mosul and other areas around Iraq. And now I'm pleased to answer your questions.
We'll start with Missy Ryan from the Washington Post.
Hi, Colonel. Missy Ryan here. Thanks. I have a couple of follow-up questions on the Turkey strikes. First of all, can you provide us an estimate of how many YPG or Peshmerga or PKK people were killed in those airstrikes? Secondly, how much notice did the United States get about those strikes, and how much time ahead of time was the United States notified? And do you have anything on reports of any new strikes or either air or artillery across the Syrian border from Turkey into Syria by the Turkish government? Thank you.
Okay. In order, out of respect for our partners, we're not going to give out their casualty numbers. That's something that they must do. So we're not going to get into that. You've seen the same open source reports that I have. There was less than an hour of notification time before the strikes were conducted. That's not enough time. And this was notification, certainly not coordination, as you would expect from a partner and an ally in the fight against ISIS. And your third question, I'm sorry.
Strikes, from Turkey against the YPG today.
I've seen open source reports on those, but I have not seen evidence of additional strikes. We'd have to circle back with you. I have seen open source reports, but I haven't seen any operational reporting on that this afternoon.
Just to clarify, you said less than an hour notice. So was that between 30 minutes and 60 minutes, or was it less than 30 minutes notice?
Well, it was less than an hour. They contacted the Combined Air Operations Center.
Okay, thanks.
Tara from Stars and Stripes.
Hey, Colonel, just wanted to follow up on some of Missy's questions. After the strikes, did Turkey reach out to its partners to provide any further explanation, or did the coalition reach out to Turkey to ask for an explanation of the strikes?
We let the Turks know that the amount of time that was being provided for the strikes was inadequate for us to assure safety of our forces on the ground. We had forces within 6 miles of the strikes. As far as the effects that they achieved, they killed a significant number of Peshmerga fighters. These are fighters that have been very important to the fight against ISIS, and then our partnered forces. We have not had extensive discussions with regard to them reaching out, but I know that there have been a significant amount of diplomatic activity between the two sides since that occurred.
And just for comparison, normal operating procedure, if Turkey was conducting an air operation, how would that go?
Well, I'm not going to get into exactly what our procedures were. It would be inappropriate to do that in the interest of operational security. That would provide valuable insight into the enemy on our tactics, techniques, and procedures. What I will say, though, is it was less than an hour. We believe that's inadequate, and it was done as a notification as opposed to coordination.
Thank you.